I was taking iodine daily and feeling the best I've ever felt in years. And then I hit a wall. The cramps and hot flashes came back, and I thought I wasn't taking enough. Thank goodness I had a conversation with Dr. Hampton that helped me to realize that I didn't have the full picture. Okay, so 8 years ago, I was obese, in pain, and struggling. Today, my goal is to help you to have a better optimal state than I had. I want you to get to it faster than I got to it, without blame, without guesswork. So the reason that I'm making this video is to help you guys out. Now, my symptoms came back because it wasn't because I wasn't taking enough iodine, which I realize now. It was a biological turf war happening inside of my cells. Now, if you think, if we think of cells like a parking lot, the receptors are parking spaces. Iodine has reserved parking. It's that important. But because we've been iodine deficient for so many years, the halogens, so these other halogens, have been parking in iodine's parking spot. Basically, it wasn't coming to work, and other halogen. So a halogen just means there are other elements in the same family as iodine. Iodine is a halogen. And because it wasn't coming to work, these other things were parking in its space, taking up the receptors. Who are these other halogens? We're talking about fluoride, which is found in our drinking water, and most toothpastes have fluoride in them. We're talking about chlorine, again, in our drinking water, in our pools, in our cleaning products. We're talking about bromide, which is the sneaky one. I didn't know where this was coming to in our situation, but it turns out that it's a pesticide, first of all. So it's in no, I was shocked to hear this one. We are often told that strawberries and, berries are so good for us, and yet it's found in strawberries, tomatoes, like all grains. Like it's found in so much stuff that we are eating because it's a pesticide. It's also used as an emulsifier, and so it's in things like citrus flavored sodas, and it's a fire retardant. So that means it's in our mattresses, our carpets, our car seats. We are actually sitting on this stuff. It's probably in the seat of this chair that I'm sitting on right now. We are sitting on and breathing in this stuff every single day. So a lot of you guys reached out to me and said, Dr. Bright and Dr. Brownstein talk about the fact that we need so much more iodine than we think. And that's why I did the research that I did. And I tried to look into this more because it was confusing to me. I have Dr. Hampton saying, be careful how much you're taking. And then you guys are saying, no, there's books saying we need so much. And today I want to walk through what I figured out, looking into this deeper about the iodine that we take, how it functions, and do we need more? Is the 1,000 max that Dr. Hampton is saying really what we should be doing? What do we do? Right? So, what I've learned is that Lugol's iodine does have the ability, so the iodine we take in a supplement does have the ability to displace, so kick out that fluoride, bromide, and chlorine out of its parking space. It can actually do that. And when it does that, the fluoride, bromide, and fluorine, so fluorine and chlorine, will be back into our system, floating around, right? The issue is if we don't have a way to get them out of our body, then they are in there causing us to feel horrible, right? The bromide, chlorine, and fluoride have the same ability to cause cramps, hot flashes, and fatigue that the low iodine situation could cause. So when I was doing my little bit of research and it was saying that, oh my goodness, if you have too much iodine, it gives you the same symptom as, maybe that's not what was happening because these other elements are there and they mimic the same kind of symptoms. So, what happened once the iodine takes its receptors back? and these elements are in our body again, and we feel horrible, and we are then thinking, I need to take more iodine, because which is what happened to me. So we end up living a problem, whether we are having not enough iodine because we're deficient, or if we have a lot of iodine because these elements are still in our body, floating around and circulating. So it's kind of this weird thing where now you have enough iodine, but these elements which mimic iodine are still there. And so the problem with the cramping and the cramps and the brain fog and the all the fatigue and all the things are still happening. And this is why I was confused. I think this is why a lot of people get confused, because it seems like whether I take the iodine or not, it doesn't seem to be helping. And if you're not like me and just persistent because you're believing the doctors that say we need it, because I did believe them. I said, you know what? That's why I kept going up in my iodine, because I absolutely believed them. And I did get to a level where I was having 1 or 2 cramps per month, which for me felt reasonable. I'm now taking much less iodine, and I'm still cramp free. So it's important to realize that I was able to become cramp free without taking excessive amounts. Okay, so let's talk more about what's going on here, because we need to understand like why having that much of everything floating around. Okay, when iodine takes back its receptors and bromide and fluoride are released and circulating in our body, the ironic thing is that high levels of bromide in the blood can actually then still compete with iodine for the same receptor, right? So now we have enough iodine to occupy the receptors, but because bromide is there, it still has an ability to occupy some of these receptors that it doesn't have the right to park in, right? So the we actually have to clear the neurotoxin, so bromide, chlorine, and fluoride. We need to clear them from our system in order for iodine to be able to do its job as efficiently as possible and just get things done. Like get to happen what's supposed to happen when you take the iodine. And this is where we're going to run into another problem, because we've been told that salt is unhealthy, but apparently it's actually part of the answer. And this is a little complicated because, well, first of all, our kidneys decide what we keep and what we urinate out. And it's based on salt levels. So the chloride, and I had to look this up, chloride is the stable form that's supposed to be. So it's this like the stuff that salt is sodium chloride. So chloride is good for us, right? And so if there's a right amount of chloride in our system, then our body can manage things. So if your kidneys are low on salt, your kidneys will recycle the toxic halides that are in your body. So basically, it won't let you pee out the bromide, fluoride, and chlorine that's in your system. It'll keep it around. And because it's keeping it around, and it's doing that because it needs there to be balanced. Our body functions on homeostasis. I say this all the time. Everything is supposed to be at the right level all the time. And because these halides are so similar and confusing, like unless there's enough chloride in the body so that your body can start peeing out the excess of what it doesn't need, that bromine and fluoride, oh my God, those other halides are going to stay in there and cause problems, is basically what I'm trying to say. So we need to choose the right salt for this to happen. And this is where, on one hand, they are right when they tell us don't use too much salt, because the salt that we are mostly using before we find out about the healthier versions, so the Himalayan, the Celtic, all these other healthier versions of salt, most of us are using refined table salt. The problem with refined table salt is that it is stripped of the minerals that come with the regular table, like the regular salt, so the natural salt, the unrefined, and that refined table salt also has anti-caking agents, which are made from aluminum-based uh, elements. And for those of you who aren't aware, because I only learned this, I think within the last 3 years, I learned this. Aluminum is hella problematic. Not just problematic, ridiculously problematic. It is toxic, full stop. We should not be using it. So aluminum foil that we put on stuff, and we should not be using that stuff. But yet, we do because we are not told how toxic it actually is. So those anti-caking agents made from aluminum, not great. Also, refined salt is bleached, not great. So we don't want to add more disruptors to our body while we're trying to clean up the halogens, right? So using natural unrefined salt is so Himalayan and Celtic, and I think Redmond's is also, I believe, a mineral salt. That's what they're asking us to aim at because it also contains these trace minerals. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that the amount of trace minerals we need is always another place for argument. One thing that I remember, and I believe it was Dr. Oh my God, I forget his name. I still don't have my paper back at my desk with the names of the doctors. Mason. It was Dr. Mason, Paul Mason, that said this. And I believe Bickman has said it as well, that when our body is struggling, it seems like we need a lot of vitamin C, for example, and a lot of things that we need them in large amounts because we're trying to overcome all the damage and all the problems of the excess sugar that we're bringing in. But going back to this idea of homeostasis, when we bring in the right level of quality foods, how much minerals and how much do we actually need to bring in? Now it becomes a question mark. So these good salts have these trace minerals that we're supposed to have. Most specifically was called out magnesium, which in salt is not at a high level, but it's there enough to help us get our iodine in, right? When you take the unrefined salts. If you take table salt, it's pure or almost pure outside of these other chemicals they add to it, sodium and chloride, right? So in the whole food world, salt is a whole food, like if you buy the unrefined stuff. But then you can also get magnesium, which is nice to know, from actual whole food, right? So we want to get unrefined salt to keep our pH correct is another thing I found out, so that our body does actually then have the ability to urinate out the fluoride and the other halides and get rid of them. So I want to remind everyone that Dr. Berry has a video out there that he did years ago with Dr. I'm going to say his name right, D. Nicolantino, Tonio, D. Nicolantonio. And they did a video where they were talking about the importance of getting not only the right amount of salt, but the right kind of salt, and like just making sure that you salt your food to taste. Because when you salt your food to taste, you're giving your body the amount of salt it's asking for, which is contrary to the advice we normally get where they say to minimize the salt you take in. Again, this is why it's so confusing for us and we struggle so much to keep our health in the greatest place we can possibly keep it in. So we get a win with salt. We're allowed to have it here and we can and have our food taste amazing. But you're going to be mad at me because the next problem is going to be the coffee that we drink, right? Because coffee is a diuretic. So we just aren't peeing out water when coffee makes us run to the bathroom, Wellness Warrior. It is dragging out the magnesium, the iodine, and even the protective chloride, so the salt, that we're trying to keep that we're trying to keep in our system. If you make coffee with fluorinated water, because a lot of our taps have fluorinated water, or even chlorinated water, you're drinking a double problem because now your body's trying to urinate out it's going to urinate out the iodine, and it's going to and you're bringing in more of the competitors for the parking spots. We are adding a receptor stealing halogen to our body every time we make coffee with straight tap water. And then, yeah, so caffeine it's just causing problems that I want us to understand that it's washing away the very iodine and the salt that we need to clear the halogens. Now, iodine has the benefit of increasing our metabolic rate, which is cool to know. And I wasn't aware of that, but it has this ability to tell our cells to create energy, which is really cool and means that we're going to be, our metabolic rate will go back to what it should have been. But then we need to understand that we take this caffeine, which is a stimulant. And now sometimes people end up having the jitters and heart palpitations because we are just overstimulating our thyroid. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Berg has talked about this. So when I learned this, I was kind of happy because I've already quit coffee. But I know there's a lot of you that are still drinking coffee. So what I would encourage you guys to do is to filter the water that you use to make your coffee if you're still drinking coffee. And maybe that's a reason to work on diminishing the amount of coffee that you drink so that the iodine that you do take in can do what it's supposed to do in your body. But if you are drinking coffee, make sure that you drink it at least an hour. Now, my mom takes thyroid medication and they told her 4 hours away from when she drinks coffee, she should take her medication. So I'm leaning more towards 4 hours because I like to be safer than sorry. But do what you need to do to make sure that your body gets what it's supposed to get, right? Because this entire conversation is about iodine, and it began because of my confusion about the dose that we are supposed to take. And I still feel with even with everything that I've learned, it's confusing because when you take high dose iodine without selenium, apparently that's not advised. Selenium protects our thyroid from getting inflamed if we bring a lot of iodine in. And it makes me wonder, like, would we need that much selenium if we were bringing it in naturally? Would it come, would the iodine come with, like, I don't know. The good news, again, is that being in the carnivore world, the keto world, we can get selenium from animal products. So that was happy for me to learn. The bad news is it's coming from organ meats and seafoods, two things that I don't actually like to have. So I'm constantly being put in the position where there's a way to do it, but it's a way that I don't normally eat. And I need to work on me because you can get selenium from tuna, salmon, sardines, and liver. That's such an easy win. Well, not the liver for me because of my thalassemia, but for a lot of you guys, that's an easy win. It means I have to focus more on eating fish, which isn't my favorite meal, and I need to just work on that. I need to get over it, right? I need to get over it. But there's more good news because you can get selenium from muscle meat, right? And that's like all of them. So chicken, like poultry, all the meats, and fish. So you can get it from all animal products, and eggs also have selenium. It's not that hard, really. Magnesium is required for the iodine pump to work in your cells, right? So if you want that to all function correctly, and we can, and I'm sorry, if iodine is displacing toxins, but you lack magnesium, your muscles won't have the ability to relax. And that might explain my cramps again, going back to maybe I just didn't have enough magnesium coming in. So, when you learn these things, and even when you think you're doing everything right, if you're just missing something, you can still have a little bit of an issue. Good to know that we can take an Epsom salt bath and get some magnesium because it can come in through the skin. We can also eat fatty fish and seafood. They're great sources of magnesium. There's a bit of a theme here, Violet. If you would eat more seafood, you would do better. Yeah, I'm starting to understand that. So, after 8 years of eating on plan, Wellness Warrior, I'm learning that there is still more I can do for my body, and I'm here for it. I'm happy to know this information. And I really hope that is coming across in how I'm presenting this, because Dr. Hampton warned us against chugging drops. He's like, he that's not what he wanted us to do. He wanted us to figure out the way to get the good stuff through eating real food: meat, fish, poultry, eggs. Whenever I say to you what real food is, I include fish, right? Meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt and iodine, right? Now I know that it's all six of these things. The problem is I lean heavy towards meat and poultry, and I don't give myself that 1 to 2 times a week where I'm having seafood. And I was doing it before. I was having scallops on a regular basis. Now, I do have calamari like every other week. If I bring that to my diet more regularly, maybe if I can find a way to make it at home that tastes terrific, then I'll do that. And that's part of my plan right now is I'm going to look at different ways that I can get these things in more regularly. I like scallops. I don't know why I stopped having them. I like calamari. I just have to have it more often. So it's figuring out the way to do these things and then do them. This isn't about just getting by, Wellness Warrior. We're looking for to be our most vibrant selves. We're looking for ancestral strength that we were born to have. Like we should be strong and we're not. We should be vibrant and we're not, but our ancestors used to be. I want you guys to share this video with other wellness warriors that you know who are struggling with cramps and hot flashes and fatigue and all the other symptoms that you get when you don't realize that you're not getting in enough iodine, when you don't realize that these other halides are taking up the spaces and blocking the iodine from doing its job. I want us to share this information so that we all have the right full picture of what we need to do to be the healthiest we possibly be. We need to stop being afraid of salt and and just do the things that are going to help our body to thrive. And then when you're done, I've linked the video, the interview that I did with Dr. Hampton that started this entire craziness and the path that I went down below. And it's going to be on the screen here whenever this finishes processing. Watch that so you understand why I deep dived into this in the first place. So let's get to the questions. Wellness Warriors, everyone who stuck with me for that very long presentation that was a little bit more complicated than I usually do, but I hope it was clear. And I'm willing to go through your questions right now so that we can clarify anything that wasn't clear enough. And I always like it, Stephanie, that you hop in and say, hey, you're going to catch me on the upload. Nice to have you here supporting the channel. And let's see, what else do we have here? So foreign user says, let me just increase this a little bit in size. Iodine is one of the three things I attribute to my full recovery: carnivore diet, fasting, and iodine. That's terrific. I mean, carnivore, I think, has been the biggest change overall for me. I'm happy that I did it. I'm happy that I'm feeling as amazing as I am. Um, could I say that there was a huge change for me when I went carnivore? No, because I did keto for 6 years. I'm realizing I know the numbers now. I looked back at my history. 6 years I did keto before I switched over to carnivore. And it was a smooth transition because by the time I switched from keto to carnivore, I only had a few meals left that had any vegetation in them anyway. So letting them go was rather simple. And what I understood from Sally Norton was that if you need to, Sally just helped me to understand that going back to things, you're risking dumping of all kinds when you go back to touching things that you've taken off your plate. So if you're going to be keto, don't just play with carnivore. If you're keto, just stay keto. According to Sally, it's much better to just let your body get healthy there and than risking the dumping that happens when you try to flip back and forth. The same way that we saw wellness were when we were doing standard diet, and if we were doing keto and then going back to standard diet, all the problems came back, and they didn't just come back at the way they were. They came back usually really aggressively, sometimes creating even more havoc, where maybe you only had weight issues and then you had weight and skin issues, or weight and other issues. And the truth is, we have to understand that everything we eat has an impact on our body, whether that's a plant or a medication or any recreational something that we put in our mouth, everything, or in our body, everything that we take in has an impact on our body. Good morning, Pat. Nice to have you here. Glad you're able to listen in. Um, so Stephanie says, I'm on the fence with iodine. I eat a lot of fish, and one of my supplements has iodine in it. I gargle with it when I'm feeling off, and so far, so good, as it seems to stop or hinder severity of colds. So what I've understood from Dr. Hampton is that if we eat the right amount of these things, we probably wouldn't need to take, we wouldn't need to take any extra iodine. So for people who like fish, you're in a great situation. I would lean into that. But I do understand a lot of people try not to have too much fish because of the way that the fish are raised and the conditions of the water. So, but I mean, honestly, wellness warrior, one thing that came to me this morning when I was thinking about all this, every time I step in the shower, I am flooding my body with apparently fluoride and and chlorine, right? And I maybe we might not have fluoride in our water here in Montreal. I have to double check. I haven't checked yet because a Pat let me know that not every municipality in Quebec has fluoride in the water, but we for sure have chlorine, right? And so when I was thinking about that this morning, I'm sitting on chairs like this, I'm laying in a bed, I'm sitting in my car. These elements are getting into my system, whether I eat them or not. And so again, I go back to, is that part of the reason that Dr. Brownstein and Dr. Bright are saying we need more iodine than we even understand that we need? And so maybe that one drop is fine because we are tackling not only these halides, but then we have the caffeine that's just stripping the iodine out of our system. That could be a very real thing, which then again could explain why when I drink my iodine, because I'm still taking it until I get my intake of food iodine to where it needs to be. So the seafood to where it needs to be. When I drink it, yeah, like I do feel better drinking some than not having any, obviously. And I'm able to keep my cramps at non-existent. Like most of the time, non-existent. A few days ago, I had a cramp in my foot, but that was like shocking. So I hadn't had one in a very long time. And when I looked back, I realized I had missed a few days of taking my iodine water. So if I can get seafood into my diet more consistently, maybe this becomes a non-issue for me and I don't have to take the drops at all. But right now, I'm sticking around what Dr. Hampton said. I'm keeping it well under 1,000. Like I'm trying to aim for more like 500. I want to be right in the middle. As you said, 130 to at the outside 1,000. So I'm kind of aiming at 5 because I've learned all of this. And it seems to me that, yeah, there's too many disruptors that we interact with for us to just act like that minimum of 150 could possibly be enough. Aluminum causes Alzheimer's. Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's frustrating to know that that's a thing that I didn't know about, but aluminum causes Alzheimer's. That's did I skip over one of the comments? No, okay. Yeah, so I mean, I just know that it's not great. I don't know exactly all the things it will cause, but I think that for all of us, when I learned that aluminum is just it's toxic. So why is it in our food? Why do we have pans that if you scratch off the coating, you're getting to aluminum? And that was the reason that I stopped taking those coated pans. One of the reasons. I mean, the C8 was a whole other thing with the Teflon. But just to know that once the C8, which is not good for us, gets scratched off or cooked off, that under there was aluminum. Like, do they care about our health at all? It's really a question mark for me. I don't know if they care about our health at all. And this is part of the reason I keep making these videos. I want you to do everything you can to make sure that you are clear that you're only eating the healthiest possible stuff that you can possibly eat. We can't control all these things. There is no way for me to make sure that there aren't fire retardant things in my home because, well, unless I wanted to sleep on the floor, sit on the floor, and only have wooden furniture. Like, yes, maybe I could possibly make sure that there were no fire retardant and I wouldn't be able to drive my car. And so, like, it's crazy to me how all around us it is, and you don't know until you actually start checking. Going back to the whole C8 thing, I did more research after that video too. I haven't made a follow-up video about it, so I'll talk about it here. C8, and so C8, and there was C4, and there was C12, and they had all kinds of different variations of the C whatever Teflon stuff, the slick, and it's in so many things. It's in detergents. It's like the truth is there isn't a way for us to get away from that stuff. Once they figured out that it was a good lubricant and a good, they just put it in everything. They put these things in everything before being clear, before really verifying, are they harmful to us or not? And I don't think that we can ignore that anymore, Wellness Warrior, because if we keep ignoring it, then the things that we can control, the things that we can do to try to help ourselves, like take more iodine so that and help the iodine to be able to displace those halides by drinking or taking more salt in somehow, like whether it's on your food or in your drinks or whatever, just adding that little extra salt. My grandfather used to put salt in his coffee, and I mean, he did it for flavor reasons, but how might that have helped him without him even realizing that's adding that little bit of salt? But just putting salt in a way and into your things to allow yourselves to eliminate more of these halides. Your body has the ability to get rid of them. Okay, perfect. Thanks you, Stephanie, for popping by. Let's see. Good morning, all. So glad I caught the live today. I'm really glad that you're here, Raven. Nice to have you here. And the next thing, a question. I know that the dose should be 1 or 2 drops in a glass of water every day. I typically drink 2 40-ounce Stanley mugs full of water per day. My question is, should I add more iodine to my water? So Raven, maybe you didn't see the last few videos that I did, because last week's video was about Dr. Hampton's previous video where he kind of pointed out that we were putting like 2 drops to him seemed like way more than we should be having, because so the math works out that 1 full drop of iodine of Lugol's iodine is 2,500 micrograms, when in fact we have told, like, the safe range that Dr. Hampton gave to me was 150 micrograms up to a max 1,000. That was the safe range he proposed. So like that sent me on this roller coaster of like, but we're being told to put 1 or 2 drops if we need less than half a drop. That's less than half a drop, because you can't, that's almost like a third of a drop to get your 1,000-ish. So how is this math working out, right? And I can tell you that I was far beyond that amount and the cramps came back. And that's why I'm making this video, because the more I learned about it, the more I realized that these other halides that are in our system could have explained why my cramps came back and I was feeling the way that I was feeling. So I hope that helps you to understand this a bit better. And I encourage you to go back and watch the video from last week, because these are the kind of things that if we don't understand how much iodine is in the supplement we're taking, on the flip side of the coin, over in Asia, they have more instances of goiters because they have so much iodine. Like they eat a lot of fish and they have more instances of goiters. So again, going back to that whole selenium thing, like, and the magnesium thing, and like the protection that that gives us, and right. So you need both sides of this coin, and it's important for us to understand how it's not just more is better. There is a right amount. Our body is trying to keep homeostasis and it wants that right amount. So I encourage you the best thing you can do for yourself is if you feel fine at your 2 drops, maybe that's your number. But I would pay more attention to how my body is telling me that things are going. Do I have good energy? Are my cramps and my hot flashes gone if you're in that age range? Um, like whatever other symptoms, and you could probably look up like what low iodine symptoms are. If you're jittery and like and when you if you're jittery when you have coffee after and your iodine, you probably have too much, right? Because now your system is overloaded and you're like, because again, stimulants, right? So I would pay more attention to that. And I do believe that there probably is a test that you can run. I mean, for those of you in the US, it's so much easier to get tests run than here in Canada. You probably could go get tested to see if you're having the good amount of iodine. Although keep in mind, when they're going to talk about your iodine levels, they're talking about standard population. They're not talking about healthy people eating the right way. So we always have to keep the numbers that our doctor gives us in mind and compare it to some keto friendly doctor or carnivore friendly doctor, depending on what lifestyle you're living. What information are they giving you about what those numbers should look like? And I think Dr. Ekberg is a great resource for that because he's always talking about that difference between what they're going to tell you and then what's healthy if you're actually eating on plan, which is the other piece of the puzzle, Wellness Warrior. Be actually eating the plan that you're comparing to. If you still touch standard American diet, trying to get all your numbers in line with the keto way of living and you're still doing standard diet is not going to work well for you because you're still letting in things that are going to throw you out of homeostasis. Same thing if you were doing mostly carnivore, but then every once in a while you're touching things that are kicking you out. Understand that then your keto numbers might not look like right, exactly, right? So it's important for you to be honest with yourself. What am I actually doing? And then look at the numbers accurately. Um, Good morning from Iowa. I'm so happy to have you here. And the question is, sorry if you've already answered this. Is it better to put the drops orally or sublingually? What I will tell you that when I first got the iodine drops, so if we are talking about Lugol's, I would put that stuff in water. That stuff is intense because I did try to see like what would a drop be like in my mouth. We'll never do that again. So I would put it in water. And I don't necessarily, from everything that I've heard the doctors say, there's no issue with that. The only thing that I will say is I would use always filtered water. It's another thing, right? If you're putting it in, you're putting a drop of Lugol's in fluorinated or chlorinated water, is it doing any good? It's one of the reasons I'm really happy with my filter system because I use a Berkey system which has the white fluoride chloride filters, and I do feel that the water tastes very different than when I was just using, like when I've ever tasted just regular filtered water. I find that the water that I get has a much more clear taste. Everybody has to do their thing, right? And investing in my water, I think was one of the best things I've ever done. The other thing I'll point out is that every time I go to clean the interior of the filter system and I see what's on those black filters, let me tell you, I'm so happy that I invested in my system because I would have been drinking that. Right. And you can see this, by the way, Wellness Warrior, when if you just boil water in a pot several times without like just keep boiling water, fill it back up, boil the water, all that stuff that's accumulating on the pot on the inside where the water's boiling out, right? Especially you could also see this in your kettle, all that stuff that accumulates inside the kettle, that was in your water. Right? That's it. Just kind of you're taking the water is going out, and I do that because I heat my cat's food in a pot, and oh my goodness, like is it crazy how much that pot that I use that I'm just boiling water in it every day has accumulated, like you can't even rub it off now, and that would have been getting into my body. So it's something to be aware of. Again, we think we're doing so good for ourselves. Something to be aware of. I'm not sure if my messages are being seen. Can anyone's? Yeah, I see your messages. Yep. Okay, so get a distiller, please. Yeah, we need to definitely I'm not sure what a distiller is. I'm not sure like if that's something that is bet you're trying to say is better than a water filter. Um, maybe something to look into eventually. Right now, I'm really happy with my setup. Now, I haven't tried, and maybe I will end up getting a distiller if I try this. I haven't tried taking the water from the distilled, so the water that I've ran through my filter, and putting it into um like putting into a pot and just boiling it out for a number of weeks and seeing, do I get the same level of craziness happening in the pot with the water that's only like just my filtered water? So that might be a test that I do at some point to see like how well is my filter actually working. But I can tell you that I see the difference in that pot where I'm taking that tap water and boiling the water. Not a good idea. Okay. Um, LOL, someone else with a cat they spoil. And he's right here beside me. Let me just see if I can get him to come. Oh, he's sleeping. Oh, make an appearance, buddy? This guy is 10 months old and only eats the best. He gets meat and fish, and that's it. And eggs once in a while, and that's it. And he's growing at a great rate. Huh? Hey, buddy? So it looks like that was the last question that I got, unless you guys have some questions about this guy. But I'm actually surprised how much kitty cats sleep. I didn't know that they sleep this much. So, like, if he's not playing with me, he's sleeping. It's really crazy. Or playing with my daughter, he's sleeping. So, kind of like dogs, though. I feel like when I wasn't home, my dog would just sleep the day away. I have cameras in the house so I can keep eye on them, and they would just sleep the day away. Just they're not even doing anything. We get home and you can see them just stretching, like, oh, you're home, and they're stretching and getting up. So, let's see. Um, let's see. So, Pat says, beautiful. My Molly is full carnivore also. She is so spoiled. Okay. Um, did the straight in the mouth drop? It's awful. Won't do that again. Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Like I didn't find that that was worth it. I honestly did it because I didn't think it would be that bad. I thought I could just, do my drop like that and not have it be a problem. And then in the end, when I tried it that one time, I was like, nope, never doing that again. That's not going to happen. So, but I mean, the good news for me is I'm starting to understand that maybe being at that 1,000 instead of the 500 might be viable. And so, just because of, again, all of these halides that are around us all the time. So, I'm going to be my bigger focus though. My goal is to try to get more seafood in so that I can have less supplements. I'm a big fan of doing what you can with food. And so that is my goal. I'm also going to try to get more seafood in because magnesium, who I didn't realize that you could get it from there, and the selenium, again, is coming from the seafood a lot. Although we are getting it in muscle meat, I was glad to figure that out. But I do think that if I just tweak my diet a little bit, a lot of these things are going to change and I'm going to feel so much better and it's going to make life so much easier for me. So that is my goal for this coming year. I may have to stop my iodine since I have developed a love of sardines. Okay, I'm having it once a week, and I never thought I would ever say that. Can I say to you something? Okay, I love that you just said that. Over the holidays, I ended up trying. Well, first of all, I tried turkey, and I hate turkey. I That's something that I say all the time. And yet, over the holidays, I tried turkey and it tasted fine. And I was just like, wow, I never thought that I would say that. But I had some turkey, tasted fine. And it was turkey breast on top of it. The part that I normally hate tasted absolutely fine. I also had ham, which I don't like. Again, it tasted fine. It's not my favorite. It's not like I'm going to have it all the time, but it was fine. What else did I have? Oh, Pat cooked some salmon over the hot. Now I had already been eating salmon, so when he suggested we have salmon for supper, I was down for it. I had no problem there. And then when he decided to, let me go back to your bed. When he decided to make the salmon, I had tried the skin, which is something that I was not doing. I was eating, just eating it off and leaving the skin behind. And I tried a little bit of skin, and guess what, Wellness Warrior? I liked it. My brain was breaking. I couldn't believe it that I actually ate all of the skin with the salmon. My brain was breaking. So our taste buds change. And it's important for us to understand that. If we give our body the chance, our taste buds change. And so, and it doesn't take long either. It's a few months for our taste buds to switch over. I'm really happy that I noticed it and that now I have a few more things. So this is part of the reason that I'm really trying to get on myself. It's about getting into the habit of cooking these things more regularly. It's not about, like, I know I can eat them. If I make it, I'll eat it. So what am I doing? How am I getting them in? And the same way that I decided that most days I would have eggs with my meals, theoretically, I could buy some salmon or resume buying scallops, for example, or I could like pick up some of these things that I was buying before if I can figure out how to make calamari at home, like which I think I probably could just fry it and it probably would be fine. So I might actually just go buy some and fry some and see how that comes out because calamari has a good amount of all these things that we need too. If I do, instead of always having eggs, maybe try to rotate having as my side dish is eggs sometimes, salmon sometimes, scallops sometimes, and calamari sometimes. I don't know what scampi is, so I'm not sure if I've ever tried it before, but if it tastes good, maybe I'll add that. I went on vacation a little while ago with Pat and we tried lobster tail and that was good. So again, maybe I could do that. So I know that there are things that I very likely could cook that would be fine for me to have that or seafood and get this iodine. So iodine, selenium, what was the other thing? Magnesium, like get these things to better numbers if I just do it. And I think maybe it's about sitting down, making a list, purchasing the things, and then putting them into my meal plan. And once they're in my meal plan, it would just be the way that I cook these things now. Like if I figure out to do, let's say when I have chicken, maybe I have this kind of seafood. When I have ground pork, maybe that's would stay eggs. And when I have pork chops, maybe it would be a different kind of seafood. And when I have the cubed pork that we like to do, the pork shoulder, maybe it would be a different. And is that four? I think so. If there's four different things, it might honestly be me just assigning a kind of seafood to a kind of meat. And then every time, and that way I would have it every day. And could I create the situation where I actually don't have to take any supplemental iodine? That's a possibility. I'm not opposed to that. So I might look into this a bit harder. I know the one reason that I'm low on scallops is I ran out of scallops was because when I went to get them at Costco, they didn't have the ones that I normally buy. But maybe I'll just buy whatever they have and call it a day. So yeah, there might be an answer here, and I'm just hesitating because it means that I have some kind of seafood, like 3 out of 4 meals, and I'm not used to that. But then maybe I'll get used to it, and I might even enjoy my meals even more. The funny thing about this is that when our taste buds are changing and we do these little tweaks, these little adjustments, and then we end up liking the stuff even more, and we start to realize how holding on to old ideas of who I think Violet is doesn't actually help me, right? But when I lean into like what I'm learning and how much better it will be for me, that's when it helps me. Good, sorry, Happy New Year. I'm glad to see you here, Mike. Um, so this is Bride Biscuit. Hello, nice to have you here as well. I use a filter to remove fluoride, and I no, bromide is near impossible to manage. It's in everything. I also eat seafood weekly and use iodine, but trying to dial in the dosage. So, like, yeah, that's part of my other problem is that bromide being everywhere all the, I mean, it probably is in this thing that I'm talking into right now because this is foam. So, bromide being in everything probably means that we will always need that little extra amount of iodine. But like I'm saying, if I'm getting it in 3 out of 4 meals, and these are moderate levels. They're like, I'm not going for the highest dose level because I think Scampi was one of the ones we found was on the higher end. So if I keep it on the lower dose ones and I have it every single day, like just to make sure I don't end up in goiter territory, like how would that matter? But you know what? Maybe over in Asia, they have better rules about bromide being in their furniture and in their beds, their mattresses and all that. So maybe that might be something for me to look up too. Maybe they have less bromide over there, and so me eating even the scampi or any other thing that I find out is higher in iodine won't be a problem because of the high levels of bromide that we engage all the time. I'm not engaging it with food anymore because I'm only eating meat, but maybe I am because my animals eat vegetation. So could some of that bromide still be in them? It's a question mark. I didn't actually verify that. I wonder if I can verify that right now. Because that's something I wonder about. Is there bromide in animal protein? Because like that would be interesting to know. Yes, bromide is present in animal protein as it is the naturally occurring element essential in animal life. Is specifically for assembling collagen. Okay, so we do need some of it. Okay. So like concentrations while present is generally found to be low. Okay. So, I mean, no matter what I do, I'm going to get some, but knowing that perhaps I can get less, that's something important for us to know. Scampi is shrimp. Oh, is scampi and shrimp the same thing? I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know that, Simpson Johns. Hope I said that right. Um, Fried Biscuit says traditional scampi includes garlic, butter, olive oil, white wine, or lemon juice and parsley. Oh, so I guess if you cook it traditionally, it's called scampi, and if you just like fry it normally, then that's called shrimp. I'm not a big fan of shrimp. I don't understand why people love it so much. I find it very like nothing. And I've had shrimp in like even more recently being carnivore. We sometimes pat like shrimp, so I'll take a piece, but I don't get it. I just don't see the appeal of shrimp. It tastes like you're eating watered down nothing fish. Like it's weird to me. Like it has a fishness to it, but it feels very watered down very nothing. And I don't like that flavor of just like the barely any. I feel like it's leaning towards fishy, not flavorful, if that makes sense. Where right now, salmon to me leans towards flavorful, slight fishy. That distinction I think is making a huge difference on why I don't like shrimp. Um, so nah, I'm not sure how to say your name. I'm just not sure how much water I have to mix with 15% iodine. I wouldn't be like 15% iodine is way, way, way high. I mean, Lugol's is 2%, and that has 2,500 micrograms in it. The 5% Lugol's, one drop, has 6,500 micrograms in it. So I would not even be trying to do a calculation on 15% iodine. Like I wouldn't do that. To me, I'm saying that that sounds dangerous. So I would encourage you. And as a matter of fact, if you go to your local health food store, which I didn't realize this to be the case, but now that I've looked, because years ago I bought one container of iodine, and I bought it for like, if you have cuts or whatever. And I decided to take a look at that one because when I heard about taking iodine and the people were saying Lugol's, I just bought Lugol's. I didn't even think about the one that I had bought for cuts and whatever. And when I took a look at it, that iodine said it only had point 0.6, sorry, it only had 640 something, I think 645 micrograms of iodine per drop, and was suitable for taking orally. That's what it said. So if you go to your local health food store, they do have iodine that's straight iodine, like just iodine in water suspension. I'm hoping that it's unchlorinated water suspension. I'm hoping. That's suitable to be taken. One drop is the dose. So you can do that. And if I remember correctly, the pricing was like similar to the bottles of Lugol's that I was buying. So that was another option that I did have that I wasn't even aware of. So all of these things matter, Wellness Warrior, because I think the other problem that I had with that iodine and why I didn't use it was because Lugol's is like has that reddish iodine color. And every time I had ever had any medical intervention, it had the iodine had that reddish color, and this one was clear. And I was like so on it. I was like, I'm not sure why it's clear. So there, of course, I had my fears about bleaching and whatever that they do and they don't tell us they've done. So that was another concern I had. Sorry, scampi is a crustacean dish using mostly shrimp. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Let's see. Another question here. What are your thoughts on doing a spot test to get an idea of your iodine levels? It's where you put a drop on your arm. Yeah. And track how long it takes to absorb. So I've had different doctors give mixed reviews on that. Some doctors say, yeah, it's good to do just to see. But other doctors say it's going to absorb no matter what. Like it's going to absorb because we are mostly deficient. And so like how quickly um it gets into you, that doctor was saying it's not the greatest way of knowing. And I believe that doctor had talked about is more about, do you have symptoms that indicate that you're low in iodine? And like and if you take iodine, does that go away? And I mean, honestly, I did try that test, and considering now knowing how much iodine I needed to take to get to the point where I started to not have symptoms before I got to the part where I had symptoms again. So like like on the way up where I was feeling good. And then, so considering how much iodine I needed to take to get there, yeah, that test was nothing because it took a little while, but it was still within the range of what they said, like, oh, you're probably fine. And then what I ended up needing to take, night and day, night and day. And all of my hot flashes and cramps did go away when I was on the way up until they came back. So which is where I feel like either I overdosed or I like put myself in a situation where the bromide got kicked out and the fluoride and the chlorine got kicked out, and then my body was struggling with them and I thought it was the iodine. So I don't think that absorption test is giving as much data as we think it could give. And this looks like it's the last question. Bromide is added to our wheat and other products. Apparently what I've understood with the research that I did is that it is in most crops, right? Because it's a pesticide, it's in the soils, it's in like it's sprayed on everything. So apparently it's in most crops. It shows up more in wheat because I do understand. I think they do add it. Like I said, they use it as an emulsifier. So anything that can have an emulsifier, you're gonna know that it's gonna have some bromide. So I think that it's important for us to just understand that despite knowing that these things compete for our iodine, they put these bromide, fluoride, so chlorine, like maybe the risk to our iodine is outweighing whatever else they're trying to save us from, which is very possible, Wellness Warrior, that there's a risk of not having these things. Like, is there a risk for bromide though? Because it's a pesticide. I mean, yes, if they don't put it in our stuff, like maybe this will be more flame, so it will catch fire faster. But then as adults, shouldn't we be making sure that we don't do dumb things that causes our stuff to catch fire? Shouldn't we be teaching our kids not to do things that cause their stuff to catch fire? So like it's almost like we keep being allowed to be dumber and dumber, and then they just give us a solution that's not helpful. It's harmful to us, but they give us the solution because, well, we're just too stupid, right? So they're going to give us the solution. So they're going to do this. It's going to be fine. It's not fine. Like, how about encourage us to do the thing that's going to help us to be okay? So I do find this frustrating, honest word. I'm just saying that. I think you could probably tell by the way I'm talking about this that I find it frustrating, right? Because at the end of the day, it's you and I's health that's on the line here. It's not theirs. It's you and I who will either benefit or suffer because of decisions that they're making. So, in my mind, I think that I should be told the truth about what chlorine, fluoride, and bromide in certain things, the impact it has on me, and then being given the option, well, Val, do you want to buy the chairs that have the fire retardant on it, or would you prefer to go with the ones that don't? When they were spraying C8 all over our furniture because it made it resistant to spills and stains and whatever. And as a matter of fact, when I bought my furniture, they charged me for that. At no point did they tell me, oh, by the way, though, when your daughter, which I had at the time as a baby, lays down in that couch and breathes that in, that's getting into her system forever. I wasn't told that. So we should be made aware. What is the risk of taking on this fun product that you're giving us versus not taking it on? Like I'm risking a spill on my couch that I would need to wash out right away. So I wash it out right away. If I spill some wine on my, why am I sitting on my couch with wine, first of all? But if I spill some wine on my couch and it doesn't come out, I tell the people that come over, yeah, I spilled some wine on my couch. Is that such a big deal compared to my health? So we need to start saying no to some of this stuff, Wellness Warrior. I mean, my dentist used to ask me every time I went if I wanted a fluoride treatment. She still does actually ask me. And I used to say yes before because, oh, fluoride's good for your teeth, right? As soon as and I learned years ago that fluoride wasn't good for us. I can't remember what the context was for that when I learned it the first time, but it wasn't iodine. I know that for sure. It was something else. And I stopped taking the extra fluoride treatments. So this is like going back a good 5 years ago. As I know I was keto when I stopped taking them. They still ask me every time, oh, do you want a fluoride treatment? You think they would write it in my chart or something, like, like, but I do feel that this is part of this problem that we have, that we don't understand the implications of just doing the thing that they tell us to do. And so, because we don't understand those implications, what do? We follow their advice. And their advice leads us to a place that's just it's not helpful to us. If you're kicking fluoride and bromide, then it is wise to boost your NaCl, that the bromide have a taxi to take the out of the system. Yes, exactly. I did talk about that earlier in the video, that you need salt, but not just NaCl. So this is where I will make the correction. Visualistic. My research showed that it's not just table salt, although table salt can help to do it. But it was pointing out that when you take table salt, there's no magnesium and all the other trace minerals that your body needs. And so when you take the table salt, which also has the aluminum based anti-caking agents in it that are harmful to the health, and other elements in their chemical bleaching and all the things that they do to it to get it to look the way it looks, you're actually bringing in other toxins while you're trying to get out the bromide and the fluoride, and you're not helping yourself. So you try to use Himalayan, Redmond's, what's the other one called? They're Celtic. Like try to use the better quality salts to help your body to manage and to have the right amount of chloride to help assist in the exodus of these other halogens, right? Because if we do it the wrong way, then our body is just going to suffer. We're not going to have a good time. Not going to have a good time at all. Let's see. And the other thing is calcium. is what keeps the fluoride and bromide in your system. It's a bunch of things, I'm sure. It's not one specific thing, I'm sure. And I think that, like, in the little bit of research, trust me, I didn't go into this to PhD level because I wanted to talk about it today, and just I was learning so much, and I wanted to get you guys the basic information so that we don't just keep willy-nilly taking large doses of iodine, not realizing that you can actually go too far. And I think that was the most important thing that Dr. Hampton put in front of me, because every other influencer that I was listening to who talked about like the upper limit kept saying that, oh, you'll just pee it out. Oh, you'll just pee it out. To only find out that only in the right conditions can you actually pee it out. I have so many people that I talk to, whether it's in my group calls or whether it's in just like in the comments, who are still afraid of salt because we've been told for so long that salt will give you high blood pressure. And people don't understand that we have high blood pressure because of the carbohydrates that we eat in excess. And you can be eating carbohydrates in excess even if you're doing keto, because excess is about your particular body. My body, not everybody's body. Carbohydrates hold on to water. So if you're still letting yourself eat carbohydrates, then you are allowing your body to hold on to water. And so, whereas we don't ever need to eat carbohydrates because our body makes all the carbohydrates we need, we do need to eat salt. Our body doesn't make it. It needs to come in from the food that we take in. That sodium is also important for another pump we have, the sodium potassium pump. So we actually need the salt. We don't need the carbohydrate. There's so many people who do keto who don't realize, or even carnivore, who don't realize that their taste buds aren't asking them for more salt because there's still sugar coming in. And so their water balance is good. So the homeostasis water-wise is still good, right? And if that homeostasis water-wise is still good, your body's not going to ask you for more salt. My body asks for salt. When people taste the food that I eat, they're like, whoa, that's salty. But to me, it's not. It's perfectly fine because I don't eat carbohydrates. So in the carnivore world, if you're still allowing spices, and sometimes people are spicing with little bits of vegetation, whether it's a piece of tomato or a piece of onion or a piece of pepper, you're still spicing that way. Understand that those carbohydrates are getting into you because you're putting them in your food. And you might be fine on the waterfront, so your body's not asking you for more salt, right? Because you are homeostatic, it's fine. But are you fine in the right way? Are you fine in a healthy way? So it's something that it does frustrate me because all of these things are so connected. We need calcium, right? We need calcium. So we don't want our calcium exiting either. We need all of these things in the right amounts. And until we understand this kind of stuff, which the more I learn, the more I learn, the more I'm happy, right? Because these are details. Like I said, I already took coffee out. Dr. Chafee, he put it to me in that video 2 years ago that the amount that drinking coffee is not good for us. Full stop. Not good for us. He put a period on it. Not good for us. And I took him seriously and I set myself on my horizon. Coffee's leaving. And now I've done it. Right? It took less than 2 years, but it took more than a year. So I had to put my mind around it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I had to put my mind around it. That's what I'm going to put myself in a position where I only intake healthy things. And that took a while for me to say, yeah, I'm really not going to drink coffee anymore. Like, it's done. Even though, wellness warrior, let me just be clear about this. I'm not one of those people that was drinking coffee from the time I turned 15, like my daughter. I'm not one of those people that was drinking coffee from the time that I was in CEGEP, trying to stay awake, and university, trying to stay awake for exams and whatever. No, all through that time, I didn't drink coffee. I started drinking coffee when I met Pat. So you're talking about like 12-ish years ago, 11 and something, 12-ish years ago, whatever it is. Like,
My brain is blanking right now. But that's when I started to, well, because it wasn't exactly when I met him. Like he was drinking coffee and then I kind of got into drinking coffee because he was drinking. But like, I mean, I had a coffee machine for when people came over, but I wasn't personally drinking coffee. So understand that I created a habit inside of 12 years that took me over a year to put my brain around while I'm putting that down. Can we pause and understand how much it matters when our brain gets hijacked by something? Can we pause and understand how much that matters? The fact that I was so hesitant to put it down because I'm so used to having it and how's my day gonna look? And wow, something that I didn't used to drink before. And now I was having 2 huge mugs of it per day. That tells you something, right? So there's so much more to the story. Whatever, however you say that name. There's so much more to the story that we need to understand. And once we understand it, then we can do good things for ourselves. So fluoride is a byproduct of aluminum, and it was promoted as a way to get money from their waste. Wow. You know what? I appreciate you saying that. This morning, I was saying to Pat that I had heard something about like fluoride wasn't brought to us because of health reasons. There was some other reasons, and I couldn't remember what the heck the reason was. But I remembered, I just remembered that I had watched something, someone was talking about it. Like, then they actually figured out how to make us brush our teeth because it would make us look like we were the rich folk, right? Like we were noble. Only noble people brush their teeth, and then all of a sudden everybody was brushing their teeth. But like I couldn't remember what was the reasoning they wanted us to do it. And thank you for bringing that to my attention because I couldn't remember for the life of me this morning. And Pat and I just had that conversation. It's so funny. Um, So calcium bromide 2 and calcium fluoride 2 seems our kidneys cannot filter, so they are stored on the glands. Boron can push these off of our glands, but then you need to supply a good vector to carry them out. Sodium is very good. Yeah, so I mean, it comes back to if we're taking enough salt, then our body can do what it needs to do to get them out of our system. And that's what we need to do, right? We need to take enough salt and give our body the time it needs to do what it needs to do. And then of course we get the benefit of iodine functioning properly. Can I just point that out? Our metabolic rate going back to what it should have been, that we have energy, that we are able to attack and accomplish what we're trying to attack and accomplish. These are things we all want, and yet they're taking it from us in such sneaky ways and we don't know, right? Exhausted all the time. We're so tired. Do we understand that fatigue is a sign that you don't have enough iodine? Do we actually understand that? Like chronic fatigue syndrome has been in the news for so long of people just not understanding why they're exhausted all the time. Do we get it? I get the same reaction. Others think I oversalt my dishes. Well, I don't put the level of salt on other people's food that I put on mine. Like often I cook for Pat or my daughter, and I don't put the level of salt on it that I put on mine. I know they wouldn't be able to manage, so I put much less on their stuff. But the flip side of the coin is that they haven't removed the carbohydrates out of their lives the way that I have. So my body needs that salt because that's the way that is keeping my fluids in my body balanced, right? Every single cell in your body has a sodium potassium pump. Salt is necessary. Even when we have too much carbohydrate, by the way, salt is necessary. As we see with iodine, as we see with the sodium potassium pump, if you don't have enough salt in your body, it's not able to do the functions it's trying to do. This is so basic and yet frustrating. It's frustrating that they've got us thinking that we need to be scared of salt. Before I go forward, be scared of table salt. That stuff is garbage. It's made in a way that it's going to be harmful to you because it's stripped down to just NaCl. And then they put all these other stupidities in it that are just toxic rather than just giving you the salt from the land the way that we were meant to have it. So, this is not about table salt. This is about unrefined salt. Find the one that you can get and start using it. So Maggie says, no more leg cramps after taking iodine for about 10 days. Thank you so much for this information. I'm so happy that you've figured that out. And what I will say, don't live my mistake. If the leg cramps start to come back, that's probably either an indication that you can go down a teeny bit in the amount that you're taking in, number one, or it could just be a simple indication that your body is flushing out the toxins. And if you ride that out, you probably get to a place where it feels good again. And the best way to do that is to take salt. So don't go through the mistake that I made because, wow, I wish I would have known that when I was doing what I was doing. We need to understand iodine above and boron below. I'm not sure what that means, innovisualistic. And so maybe you might have more chemistry knowledge than the rest of us, but iodine above and boron below, I'm not fully sure I get. Are you talking about the periodic table? Because maybe if you're talking about the periodic table, so iodine is here, bromide is just above it. Where's boron? So I'm not really sure where boron is on this. But if you're, yeah, let's see. Boron, maybe you're giving us something to investigate. So boron is fifth. Let me see. Oh, boron is, so on the periodic table, boron is higher. So I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Can you clarify what you mean? That's thank you very much for telling me that you like my chat and topics. But can you clarify a little bit, if you don't mind? What do you mean when you say iodine above and boron below? Because on the periodic table, iodine boron is higher on the table than iodine, because boron is the fifth element, if I saw that correctly. Yeah, fifth element, and iodine is way down here, so it's the 53rd. So maybe just help me understand what you mean by that. Thank you. And this one says, what's happening? Interesting. Okay, nice chat and topics. Okay, I don't know why I wasn't showing before. Okay, low fat, low salt is so ingrained. My vegan daughter recently told me she is going low salt. Ah, okay. Wish I could influence her more. Wow. Okay. You know what? I do think that sometimes it's the unfortunate truth, but sometimes we need to live the repercussions of eating the wrong thing to truly see why it's wrong to eat. And that there are a lot of people that that's what happens to them. Like I definitely can tell you that having violet syndrome caused me to stick to my healthy diet more than anything else I could have ever lived through, because every single time I had a little too much carb, for example, my violet syndrome would kick in, my joints hurt, my back hurt, like every joint in my body would be screaming. When I had taken nightshades out and then had some paprika, my joints were killing me. Like every time I wavered or like accidentally did something, like when I was eating cashews and I had like, so my carb count went past my 18, my back was hurting me. So every single time, and I mean, not even just a carb count, like, I mean, there's toxins in nuts and seeds, right? And grains. Like there's actual toxins in them, as I learned from Dr. Eid and Sally Norton. So Georgia Eid, Sally Norton. There's toxins in this stuff. So what other dumping could have been happening because I let something back in, according to what Sally taught me. But every time I touched something that I shouldn't have touched, my violet syndrome kicked in and I was beat up by my body telling me, stop doing that, you idiot. You're hurting yourself. And I listened. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for letting me know that pain will come back if I touch those things. And trust me, Wellness Warrior, I stopped touching those things. I much rather eat real food because it tastes amazing to me. First of all, right now, like I just love everything I'm eating. And this is the part that makes me like in my brain, I'm just like, you're not being smart. Because I know that if I start having on rotation eggs, salmon, uh, scallops, and if I can figure it out how to make it calamari, if I have those four things on rotation with the four different kinds of meat that I actually eat, because I only eat four, I'm actually increasing my variety. Because normally what I normally do is ground pork, pork chops, pork shoulder, and chicken thighs specifically. And each of those meals I will have with a side of eggs if I'm having sides. So sometimes I will have them just the meat, nothing else. And most of the time I have them with eggs. So I would actually be increasing the variety by just putting scallops, salmon, and calamari into the mix. And I can guarantee you the way that I will cook them is same simpleness, fry it beside whatever I'm cooking, because that's how I do things. I make my life easy. So probably that salmon would go in the last maybe 10 minutes of me cooking my pork chop. If I did it there, let's say I did it beside my pork chop, it would go in the last 10 minutes. And the same thing with the scallops, and probably the same thing with the calamari. Just in that last 10 minutes, just throw it in the hot pan, let it cook, and I'd be fine. I honestly don't know why I'm hesitating to do this one, Sawyer. It is the simplest thing. The more I say this out loud to you, I'm just telling you what's happening in my head right now. The more I am convincing myself that come the next time I go grocery shopping, I'm going to buy these things and it's going to become part of my meal plan. I'm going to pick a meat, and with that meat will come that side dish, and it will just be the way it is from now on, because that's how my brain works. And I'm being like totally transparent with you. That is really how my brain works. Once I decide, okay, that's what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do it. So I see this coming like in the down the road, like very shortly, that this problem is solved. The worst case scenario, instead of having one pan to clean at the end of my day, I might have two pans to clean, depending on like the amount of meat. Maybe it won't even be that. Maybe I'll be able to fit these things in between the other pieces of meat once they've cooked down. I may be able to just put the piece of salmon in, or put the few pieces of scallops or calamari in to make my serving and be fine. But I'm telling you, as I'm saying this, I know I'm saying it out loud a lot, but I'm trying to make sure it gets ingrained in my head. Violet, this is too simple for you to not do it. Like cooking seafood is not hard. It's too simple for me to not do it. So it's very likely by even possibly next week or the week after, you might be hearing me say, hey, I figured it out. I have my, because in my brain, I've already assigned things. I at least know the eggs are staying with the ground pork. Like that just makes sense to me. But that could switch up too, because sometimes I like my eggs not scrambled. So we'll see. But the more I say it, the more I think I see the answer. Let me know, Honest Warrior. Um, what are the things that you're going to be working on in the coming weeks? Like, is there anything that I've said here today that makes you look at seafood a little differently if you're like a not into seafood like I am? What about the whole organ meats, which is I believe was a place that you can get selenium if I remember correctly. Like, what about just these other things that we could be doing to help ourselves? Um, what are you thinking about this? I'd love to know your thoughts. You can put it in the comments too after this live stream is over, because it looks to me like there's not more comments coming in. So I want to thank you for being here, for chatting with me, for giving me more information to look up again, because, I'm going to look that stuff up that you guys talked about, the whole boron thing. I would have really loved if you would have been able to tell me what you meant by boron on top versus under, but maybe you've left the chat. But um, I would, I'm encouraging you all. Let me know in the comment section, what are you working on? What is going to be the next thing for you? Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next Monday, 11:20, like usual. The video for you to watch next is linked in the description below. It's the one that got me on this entire train of thought, because Dr. Hampton said a bunch of impressive things that got me thinking. You want to check that video out? It's linked below. I'll talk to you very soon. Have a good rest of your day. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.